horrible, devastating loss by the Marlins. Anytime they go to Truist Park, it's a house of horrors.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. We just witnessed one of the biggest collapses of the entire Major League season. The Marlins go to Truist Park. They were winning 6-2, and they end up losing the game 8-6. An utter and complete choke job at a time in which you can't afford losses like these. You are 56-57 heading into this game. You can't lose this game. You had Eury Perez on the mound against 90-year-old Cookie Carrasco, came over from the Yankees. He's just existing at this point in Major League Baseball. I don't know how he has a roster spot, but he does. The Marlins jumped out to a big lead. Carrasco was terrible. And early on, it looked like the Marlins were going to dominate this game and have a comfortable victory. And it was anything but that. Carrasco ends up going 5 2/3, 6 earned runs, 9 hits. He was bad. But on the other side of the equation, Eury Perez picked a real bad time to have a real bad game. 5 1/3, 7 hits. He gave up 5 earned runs, walked 2, struck out just 1. That's negative fantasy points for those of you keeping track at home. Gave up 3 homers also. That can't happen. You give up back-to-back homers in the first inning, you settle down, you get into a groove, and then you give up another homer in the 6th. So in total, 3 homers. Not good from Eury Perez. The offense, you scored 5 in the second, and then it was just 1 run the rest of the way. 1 run in the 4th inning, and the Braves climb their way back into things. It happens all the time here at Truist Park. I talked about this with Miami TVG. This is a huge series. This road trip is so important for the Marlins. And you look around at the rest of Major League Baseball, there were 4 games on today. The Reds were playing the Pirates. Paul Skeens was pitching. He pitched great, and the Reds lose. So you had an opportunity to gain a game back against somebody that's currently ahead of you in the Major League, in the wild card standings, and you fail miserably. An absolute wonder of a choke job. And Braves fans are ecstatic. They want nothing more than to play spoiler. They're playing for nothing at this point. John Boy last weekend was talking about the Marlins playing for funsies. This is the team that's playing for funsies. It's the Braves. They're pathetic. And, 47 and 66. They're 20 games under 500, basically, heading into this one. How many times have we seen this? The Marlins go into Truist Park. They're winning a game. And the Braves come back and rip our hearts out. It happens all the time. It's a house of horrors. I'm frustrated. I'm upset because you just lost 2 out of 3 to Houston. You managed to salvage that final game. And early on in this game, it looked like the offense was coming alive, keeping the momentum they had from that last Astros game. 6 runs, you're up 6-2, and it just falls apart. utter collapse. I want to address the lineup heading into this game first off. Heriberto Hernandez talked about him on yesterday's show, how great he's been. He's benched in favor of Troy Johnston, who plays right field to start the game, and Eric Wagaman plays first. And now, of course, Wagaman did get a hit. He had an RBI, a 2 RBI triple, actually. So I'm not going to bash that decision too much, but it's still one that pregame makes you scratch your head and wonder, what is Clayton McCullough seeing in Eric Wagaman? And yes, he got a hit. That's great. But he's still not a trustworthy option every day in the lineup. And the Marlins, it seems like they do whatever it takes to get his bat in the lineup. Let's talk about the catching. Liam Hicks in the bottom of the 8th. 2 passed balls. Just pretty much gave the Braves a free run. And I know the Marlins didn't end up scoring in the 9th, so that extra insurance run didn't really matter. But these things overall matter. Where the Marlins are right now, they matter. I don't care if it's a development year. Right now, the focus should be on, can this team win enough games and play well enough on this road trip to get closer into wild card contention. You have 7 games left in the season against the New York Mets, who are playing awful. This is where you take advantage. This is where you make up your ground. So when you play them head to head, that's where you really strike. And right now, that collapse that I just saw, it's devastating. It's horrible. And a big part of that was Eury Perez not having his best game at a really bad time to just serve up meatballs and give the Braves 3 homers. You know, credit to Drake Baldwin. He's probably going to win National League Rookie of the Year. He hit 2 bombs in this game. Former Marlin Marcell Ozuna homered. But it's also Clayton McCullough, the bullpen. The bullpen management in this one was questionable, to say the least. And I'm going to go so far as to say it was just downright bad. They brought Josh Simpson into a spot in which he shouldn't have been pitching. I'm going to tell you about that more right after this. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, Marlins merchandise. Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. I speak from experience when I say that I use Gametime as my first go-to when it comes to purchasing tickets. I love the all-in pricing. There's no hidden fees. What you see on the app is exactly what you're going to pay at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I appreciate all the everyday listeners making Locked On Marlins a part of your daily routine. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. If you're new on the YouTube channel, let's grow this podcast. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So let's get there, hopefully pretty soon. And hopefully Clayton McCullough makes some better decisions with the bullpen moving forward, because that was just bad. Okay, so Eury Perez, he gets kicked out in the 6th. He's not getting outs. He gets 1 out in the 6th before he leaves. Ronnie Enriquez comes in, finishes it off, cleans up the mess, and he's at 14 pitches. They take Enriquez out of the ball game, and McCullough puts in Josh Simpson. And Josh Simpson, heading into tonight's game, has an ERA of 5.82. And he's protecting a 1-run lead. Not the best idea. Immediately gives up a couple of runs. One was earned. Doesn't finish the 7th inning. Anthony Bender comes in. He wraps it up. And then Cade Gibson pitches the 9th. But why is Josh Simpson in the game? Okay. Tyler Phillips hasn't pitched since the Yankees series. He hasn't pitched since August 2nd. Okay. So we're looking at 5 days of rest for Tyler Phillips, who's been really, really good as of late. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. The month of July, Tyler Phillips hasn't had an ERA of 0.59 in 15 1/3 innings. He's been absolute nails. You saw that video of him coming into the Yankees game in a high leverage situation, by the way. And he's hitting himself in the face. He's an absolute psycho. And that's what I want coming out of my bullpen, or absolute psychos about to take the ball and just rip fastballs at you and protect the lead. You got to pitch like your life depends on it. And with all due respect to Josh Simpson, he's not very good. Marlins have 2 lefties in their bullpen, Cade Gibson and Josh Simpson. And of course, Gibson got the 9th, but I'd rather have Cade Gibson pitch in that situation than Simpson. Simpson's ERA on the season is 3.38. I mean, he's not incredible, but he's not bad per se. Tyler Phillips was available. And Clayton McCullough, I'm looking at the situation that the Marlins were in heading into the bottom of the 7th. They had lefties up, the Braves did. And I think that, of course, was part of the thought process that went into bringing Josh Simpson right here. But if you can do a do-over, and of course there's no do-overs in baseball, the Marlins are they got to sit with this loss until tomorrow, and then they got to play and hope they bounce back with Edward Cabrera on the mound. You're going to redo it. You had Nacho Alvarez pinch hit for Nick Allen, and then Jurickson Profar, Matt Olson, Drake Baldwin. So in a lefty-heavy lineup, to me, it doesn't matter. It still doesn't matter. You bring in the better reliever when you're protecting a 1-run lead. And this is one of the weaknesses that the Marlins have had this season, is no consistency from the left-handed side of the bullpen. Anthony Veneziano was the guy to start the season. He's since been DFA'd. I think he stayed with the organization. I'd have to check, because for the last while he's been in AAA pitching for the Jumbo Shrimp, and he was the lone lefty that the Marlins rolled out with. And no, I was wrong. He was claimed by the St. Louis Cardinals. So the lone lefty that the Marlins had to start the season isn't even with the organization now. He was DFA'd and claimed by another team. Josh Simpson making his major league debut. Cade Gibson's making his major league debut. Those are the 2 lefties this season that made their debut. They're rookies and are now the sole left-handed options for McCullough out of the pen. So I don't want to fault McCullough to the extent that it seems like I am, because his hands are tied slightly. That's a personnel decision. I think in that case, you need better options than 2 rookies out of the bullpen from the left-hand side. But if you're orchestrating your roster with a lot of righties, then it makes sense to pitch righties against lefties. If you feel confident that you can get outs with your right-handed pitchers, and the Marlins do, then bring in Tyler Phillips, not Josh Simpson. It was a bad decision, terrible decision, and it cost the Marlins. Who knows what would have happened if Phillips is in instead of Simpson. But at that point in time, came back to bite Miami. And don't let this don't let the bullpen mismanagement distract you from the fact that the offense didn't do their job either. Yeah, they had 10 hits, but only 1 run scored after the second inning, and that was in the 4th. When you have momentum against a rival team like the Atlanta Braves, then you can't let your foot off the gas pedal. You have to go pedal to the metal and drive them through the turf and make sure they're not getting up. You can't relent. You can't slow down and allow them to crawl back into the game, which they do. I'm telling you, Truist Park is not fun to play in if you're the Marlins. Bad things happen there. Every single year, it feels like. You had that 7-run comeback years ago. I think back to the 4th of July game where Max Fried ends up walking it off. I mean, the list goes on and on. In the last few years, they've been awful. They have a terrible record at Truist Park. So this one, it hurts. It's just brutal. I almost have no words left just because of how much this win would have meant. This win gets you back to 500. And now you've won 2 in a row. You have all the momentum heading into Friday's game, in which Edward Cabrera, your best pitcher, him and Eury, but Edward Cabrera is going. You feel confident in him. And now all of a sudden your backs are against the wall. This one was a must win. Tomorrow certainly is a must-win baseball game on Friday. There were some positives, though. Graham Pauley hit a homer, and I've been impressed with Graham Pauley. I talked about him earlier in a past episode, but Graham Pauley feels like, to me, he's going to provide competition at third base, not just for the rest of the season, but heading into 2026. If he keeps hitting, then there's a case for him to continue playing every day there at the hot corner, even when Connor Norby comes back. I'm going to tell you about Graham Pauley, and I'm going to tell you about a pitching prospect that had an awesome game in AAA. Robbie Snelling set a career high in strikeouts. That's coming up right after this. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before Week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the game. The flex play option is a total game changer because even when one of your picks misses, you can still win money. All is not lost. So that flex play is a huge deal if you love fantasy sports during football season. And football season's right around the corner. I can't wait. I love baseball, but I also love football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Locked On Marlins is on the YouTube channel, and if you're watching the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. But it's also on all the major podcast platforms out there: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, you name it, it's out there. So you can listen on the go. Graham Pauley hit a home run in Thursday's game. And watching that game live, I thought that Pauley homer was pretty much the final blow to the Braves. And I was obviously wrong because they came back to win the game. But Pauley's been impressive. Ever since he got called up again and he's getting consistent playing time, he's playing an elite third base defensively. the glove's there, but the bat is coming around as well. And I think that's going to foster some real competition now at the hot corner. I've compared Graham Pauley to the Marlins version of Ke'Bryan Hayes. And Ke'Bryan Hayes was is a Gold Glove winner at third base. He was traded this trade deadline. He starts for Cincinnati now, but he plays every day. And Graham Pauley is right up there with him in outs above average. His range, the way he's got a cannon of an arm, he can make the throws to third base from third to first. Obviously, he's got all the boxes you want to check at as a third base defender. The question is his bat. And now with his bat heating up with the home run against Atlanta, that's only going to stir more confidence in him. I really like his swing. If you watch his swing, it's a very nice swing from the left-handed side. Then when Connor Norby returns, the Marlins are going to have a question and a decision to make regarding the rest of the year and potentially into next season. Because what I thought one of Graham Pauley's issues were, not flaws, but issues, was that he wasn't getting enough playing time. And that was when he's sitting on the bench, that's going to deter him from consistent everyday impact and ultimately production. I mean, Connor Norby was getting the lion's share of starts at third, and then when Connor goes down, Pauley gets his chance and he's running with it. So obviously, you get Norby in the Trevor Rogers trade, last year's deadline. You have high expectations for him. He was subpar this season offensively, subpar defensively. He's dealt with injuries. Do you let Pauley be the starter if he continues this pace? Again, Connor Norby isn't going to be returning from the injured list for a few more weeks. So there's still time for Graham to make his case even further and solidify himself as, hey, I'm playing too good baseball, if that makes sense, to be removed from the lineup. If you're performing, you're performing. Especially if the Marlins find themselves in contention down the stretch. The key is his bat. That is the key, because he's miles better of a defender than Connor Norby is at the hot corner. That's crystal clear right off the bat. And I like Pauley. I think he's doing some special things with the glove, and the bat's coming around. I don't see why he's just going to fall off all of a sudden. I expect him to get better over time. He hit in the minors. He was always a hitter in the minors, going back to his days in the San Diego Padres system. So now he has his opportunity, and that's oftentimes all it takes for some players. Just give him an opportunity and see what he can do with that. We see Heriberto Hernandez, he's done the same thing. Got called up from AAA as a minor league free agent this offseason and goes out and hits. He performs. Performance matters. One of the prospects for the Marlins that is performing really, really well, his name's Robbie Snelling. And in his most recent start against, let's see here, who did he face? Nashville. The Nashville Sounds. That's the Brewers AAA team. He tied a career high in strikeouts. 11 strikeouts. That's his second time in the last 3 starts he's hit 11 strikeouts. He is rolling for AAA Jacksonville. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. Going back for his last 3 starts, you're going to have 18 2/3 innings, combined 1 walk to go with 28 strikeouts. That's incredible. Or 29 strikeouts, rather. That's incredible. ERA in AAA, 1.63 for the Jumbo Shrimp. I think he's ready. I don't see that there's anything left for Snelling to prove at the AAA level other than the fact that he's going to continue getting reps until a spot in the rotation opens up. And that's kind of the issue, right? Not the issue. It's a good problem to have, but that's what's preventing us from seeing Snelling. Who are you taking out of the rotation right now? Eury, obviously not. Cabrera, Sandy. And then you have Jansen Junk and Cal Quantrill rounded out. Of course, Quantrill, you guys might say he's expendable. He's pitched really bad his last start against Houston, and overall his numbers aren't great. But the month of July, Quantrill really settled into his own, and I think this weekend we're going to see hopefully a different version of Cal Quantrill, going back to that July version as he makes his second start in August. You have that doubleheader on Saturday. You're going to need to fill a spot right there. I think it's going to be Ryan Gusto gets called up from AAA to make that start. He's already started 14 games this season for the Houston Astros. So there's no clear opening for Robbie Snelling to make his major league debut. If I had to pick, I think the way Snelling appears in the majors this season is if the Marlins fall out of contention and Cal Quantrill they place on waivers before the month of April ends. If they place Quantrill on waivers, they DFA him. They couldn't trade for him at the deadline or trade away him at the deadline. Nobody wanted him. But if you're in contention, you're going to keep Quantrill because he's, for the most part, giving you valuable innings. You throw away that Houston start, he's been very, very solid. If that happens, then I think Snelling is a September call-up. Until then, although I believe he's ready, it's probably better just to give him more consistent reps in AAA, continue working on what he's got to work on. Locating that curveball. It's nasty. It's a strikeout pitch. Continuing his location with the fastball and, the walks, the last 3 starts, 1 walk combined. That's going to play at the major league level. That's a good sign for his future as a Marlin. I think Snelling has top of the rotation potential, especially with the velocity taking a jump from last season when he split 2024 with the Padres system and the Marlins system to this year, in which he's hitting 98 miles an hour, 97 miles an hour in the games. That's going to be huge for him. He'll sit 94, 95, and that's good. But if you can ramp it up, you can find a little bit of extra juice in the tank, then Snelling, man, you pair that fastball with the curve, that's a strikeout pitch, and he's racking him up in AAA. Snelling's been great. It's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if with Robbie Snelling. It's a matter of when. So I can't wait to see how the Marlins handle him moving forward. But right now, it's the playoff race. That's what I'm focused on. Marlins, you got to come out on fire tomorrow. You can't let this loss beat you. It was horrible. It was a gut punch. It was devastating. But you play 162. You got to find a way to move on, put it behind you, and come out swinging again. Even though it didn't go your way on Thursday. 6 runs. Let's see that same offensive production. Let's see another Graham Pauley homer. Kyle Stowers had a quiet game for the most part. He had 1 hit, 1 for 5. He struck out. How about Stowers shows up? Because Edward Cabrera we need a big start from Cabrera on the mound. These Braves, they're relentless. They play excellent at home against the Fish, and they're going to be playing spoiler. So you got to stop the bleeding, bandage up your wounds, and attack tomorrow with enthusiasm. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I appreciate you guys listening, and until next time,